The attacking midfielder, which is the architect of the midfield system, has gone through many identity shifts as football evolved. It is a tactical anomaly, a liquid role in a sport historically rooted in a tactical structure, changing its form depending on the needs of the game at the time. Comparing Johan Cruyff or Diego Maradona with Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard, there won't be very few similarities, except that at one point, all have defined what it means to be an attacking midfielder. The common thread between all of them is creativity, whether it be dropping into the hole to drag central defenders out of the space or rampaging into the box with a late run to attack across. The function of the attacking midfielder has always been to make things happen in front of the goal by whatever means necessary. So in this video, we'll look into how the role of central attacking midfielder has evolved over the years. Someone who had the chance to watch Ajax, Barcelona or the Netherlands over the 1960s and 70s might point out that Cruyff was usually charged with leading the line. But while that might logically rule him out of contention as one of the great pioneering number 10s, it's possible that the modern attacking midfielder would not exist without Cruyff's first changing what it means to be a forward. So revolutionary was Rinus Michael's deployment of Cruyff as a forward who freely roamed the pitch, dropping into midfield or drifting wide depending solely on where he could get on the ball, that it instigated a tactical revolution that reached every corner of the game. As Ajax adapted their game to Cruyff, creating a fluid approach to football that saw every player except the goalkeeper move between positions. Total football was born and Catenaccio, the predominant Italian system of the time, was a thing of the past. With Cruyff, coaches began to see the benefits of deploying a player between midfield and attack. The options it provided in possession were endless, and the great teams of the years ahead were often defined by the players fielded in the hole. After the turn of the century, the attacking midfielder began to become more and more clearly outlined within tactical system. 4-4-2 gave way to 4-2-3-1, a system built for the first time on paper around the technically proficient nucleus of midfield. Now that the attacking midfielder was a role in itself rather than a central midfielder with instructions to attack or a striker tasked with dropping deep, it had an identity and it became fashionable. Mesut Ozil of Real Madrid and Wesley Sneijder of Inter Milan were suddenly the most valuable players in football. Mesut Ozil started to grab assists with his creative passing and dedicated vision and soon became one of the best central attacking midfielder in the world. Over in the Premier League, Juan Mata was influential at Chelsea, winning their first Champions League and securing back-to-back Player of the Year awards for Chelsea. Now, the role of the number 10 was labelled, it became the thing to stop. The conundrum of how to protect defences against the creative geniuses who were taking over modern football was mulled over by the great footballing minds. And in the end, it was Pep Guardiola, setting up Barcelona with a contemporary take on Cruyff's total football, who cracked it. Guardiola's Barcelona were one of the first teams to adapt to this rising tide of the number 10s. The solution was simple. Guardiola's attacking midfielder dropped into a flat midfield 3, which allowed one player to drop into the space, usually countering for the likes of Mata and Ozil. This, when executed, nullified the threat while leaving the defensive midfielder with 4 options, his midfield teammates and his 2 central defenders, immediately open to him upon winning the ball. This marked the adaptation of 4-3-3 formation, which allowed games to be more physical and high-paced. And with the role of inverted wingers formed, this forced the traditional number 10s an option with either to adapt or to persist with the system. While the likes of Fernandinho switched to a more deeper role and became a reliable defensive midfielder, and De Bruyne and Silva switched themselves to wingers, players such as Mesut Ozil and Juan Mata struggled to get out of their naive role, due to which they suffered a drop of form in their later stages of their career. In the history of football, dominance have always belonged to the team who can most creatively utilize the attacking midfielder. We are seeing that even today with Kevin De Bruyne of Manchester City and Bruno Fernandes of United as modern example. But it's a role which by its nature is constantly changing with the times.
Do share your views on how you liked the video, support us by dropping a like and subscribing to the channel.